Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here on behalf of Power Engineering Magazine and Penwell Corporation. Welcome to PowerGen International 2017. We are so very glad to have you here in the great city of Las Vegas. More about Las Vegas in just a moment. This is PowerGen's 29th year. Next year will be our 30th anniversary. Over the years, PowerGen has grown to become the largest gathering of power professionals in the world. We have about 1,100 exhibitors on our massive showroom floor, and nearly 300 speakers will be featured in 60 conference sessions today, tomorrow, and on Thursday. This is a very, very big event, and it took a lot of people to pull this together. At the heart of this event is our PowerGen committee. We have about 160 people on the PowerGen committee, and they represent the industry's best and brightest. They do a lot of work. They review and select the abstracts, they recruit the speakers, and they moderate all of our conference sessions. They do a great job. I do a great job of taking the credit for all their hard work. Many of our committee members are here with us this morning. They are in the audience. At this time, I would like to ask our committee members to please get out of your seats and on your feet so we can thank you for your commitment to PowerGen and to this great industry. Thank you. Well, Las Vegas has been the home of PowerGen for many years. And this place we call home is still hurting from the tragedy that occurred October 1st. This senseless act of violence left 58 people dead and more than 500 injured. The injured are still recovering, and the families are still coping with their losses. I would encourage you to donate what you can to the Vegas Victims Fund. In fact, Penwell will be collecting donations all this week for the fund at the Penwell booth on the showroom floor. So at this time, I think it would be most appropriate for us to take a moment of silence in remembrance of the victims and their family members. Please join me. Thank you. Thank you. Well, there is a lot going on this week. You are going to see new things. You are going to hear about new technologies. When you do, we would love it if you would post something about it on Twitter, on your Twitter account using the hashtag PowerGen. We have a lot to cover this morning. In addition to 5 keynote speakers, we will be handing out awards for Projects of the Year, Woman of the Year, and the Peabody Clean Coal Awards. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we meet our first keynote speaker, it's time to announce our first 2 Projects of the Year, Best Gas-Fired Project and Best Coal-Fired Project. We receive scores of nominations for Projects of the Year every year, and this year was no different. Selecting the finalists was very difficult. Every project we looked at was innovative. Every project we mentioned this morning is making a big impact on the people around them. And every project we honor this morning had to overcome several obstacles to reach completion. So when I announce the winners, we will play a video of the winning project. As that occurs, I'd like to ask the representatives of that winning project to please come on stage for a photo. All photos for the runners-up will be taken on stage immediately after this morning's keynote session. All right, here we go. The finalists for this year's Best Gas-Fired Project are the Wolf Hollow Combined Cycle Power Plant by Exelon, the Grand River Energy Center Combined Cycle Unit 3 by Grand River Dam Authority, and the Berulis Power Plant by Middle Delta Electricity Production Company. And this year's winner is the Wolf Hollow Combined Cycle Power Plant by Exelon. Am I giving you the award? Okay. Stand right here. Hi, Dave. How you doing? Good to see you. Why don't you stand on that side of the T right there? Why don't you take the award? Give me your right hand. There we go. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. You bet. All right, congratulations once again to Exelon. All right, it's time to find out who the winner of this year's Best Coal-Fired Project. This was another very difficult decision. All three projects are very worthy of this award. The finalists for this year's Best Coal-Fired Project are Edgewater, Unit 5 by Wisconsin Power and Light, the Hsu Power Plant by China Resources Power Holdings, and the Petra Nova Carbon Capture Retrofit by NRG Energy. And this year's winner is the Petra Nova Carbon Capture Project by NRG Energy. David, really? Russell Ray. Let's go over here. So I'm going to hand you the award. We're going to shake hands after I do this. Suck in, yeah, and it's tough to do. Exactly. Like that. Congratulations. We'll see you later. All right.
The captured carbon dioxide is then piped 51 miles and injected into marginal flow wells to reduce oil production, a process known as enhanced flow recovery. Oil producers estimate 60 million barrels of oil could be recovered from those wells using this method of production. In addition, the oil revenues would be used to pay for the operation of the carbon capture system. The project uses
All right, it's time to meet our first keynote speaker. Blake Moret is President and Chief Executive Officer of Rockwell Automation. Now, I admire Blake for several reasons. Number one, he's a great speaker. Number two, he has great vision, and as we all know, great leadership requires strong vision. And number three, he worked his way up the ladder at Rockwell from a lowly sales trainee to CEO of the company. He was named CEO on July 1st, 2016, and to say the least, his first year as CEO has been an interesting one. As the power sector invests more money into analytics, his company has been the subject of much attention and great interest. Rockwell is the world's largest company focused on industrial automation and information. Blake is very passionate about the company's vision of connecting people, processes, and technologies. Before being named CEO, he served 5 years as Rockwell's Senior Vice President of Control Products and Solutions. Altogether, Blake has 31 years of experience at Rockwell, and he's taken on several leadership roles during that time. He is a man of great experience and talent. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Blake Moret.
Yeah, thank you. Well, good morning. As Russell said, I'm Blake Moret, CEO of Rockwell Automation, and I'm very happy to be with you this morning. We're going to be talking about harnessing the power of the industrial Internet of Things to bring increased productivity to the power generation industry. We are talking about the future, so we have to put up our safe harbor statement. Just a bit more about Rockwell Automation. As Russell said, we're the world's largest company devoted exclusively to industrial automation and information. We bring the connected enterprise to life by integrating control and information across the enterprise to help industrial companies and their people be more productive. That's all we do. I'm happy to say that our technology and our expertise are found throughout the power generation industry, from combined heat and power projects in institutions like hospitals and universities, to point solutions such as SCRs, ASIS, and thermal inlet air cooling, to photovoltaics and concentrated solar plants, hydro, remote monitoring and control of solar facilities as well as wind facilities. One of the CHP projects that we're particularly proud of is the 8 Flags project, which was the winner of the PowerGen International CHP Plan of the Year. We do peaking, simple cycle, gas turbines, and larger combined cycle plants such as the 840 megawatt facility at Dorad in Israel. As we look at the trends in the industry that are particularly relevant, we think about the large amount of aging infrastructure, including the controls. We look at the changing fuel types, the impact of renewables. Obviously, the rapidly changing world of regs and compliance. And then, particularly important for us, digitization and the attendant risks of cybersecurity. One of the particular challenges that affects this industry and many others, because Rockwell sees a lot of different industries, at the top of the list in most of these industries is the demand for skilled labor, for people who want to do this type of work and who are comfortable interacting with advanced industrial control and information equipment. This gap is at the list of many of the leaders that I talk to when they worry about the future and their ability to compete. Briefly, some of the things that we have identified as being most important to address this skills gap is the concept of lifelong learning. It starts before workers begin working, high school, whatever course of study they take, but most importantly, over the course of what could be a 40-year career, to be able to get the opportunity for additional education, because that technology is changing and their skills need to be upgraded for them to be as relevant and as valuable as the day that they started. It's about outcome-based education, using a variety of training sources. That includes, importantly, knowledge transfer, as many of the people my age and older who understand how these processes work have to have a structured way to impart their knowledge to the younger generation. And then finally, it's about partnerships between learning centers, wherever they may exist, at whatever level, and producers. As we look at the digital transformation, traditionally controls were applied to provide basic control, closing loops, providing visibility to the process. It was also quite hierarchical. Certain tasks, certain communications networks at different levels of the operation. There was automation of purely rote manual labor. What we're seeing now, those things remain in place, but we see the addition of often software-based tools to allow for the fast interpretation and action to be able to provide additional levels of productivity. It's about the convergence of IT technology and operational technology. And these aren't just buzzwords. We see it every day, and it's not just about the technology, it's about organizations as well. As control and information are integrated, it involves companies to be more agile in even the way that they structure themselves, because traditionally those IT technologies and skills were somewhat separate from the people on the floor who understood the processes, who had that knowledge. And that's going to be the key to success for suppliers like us, as well as the consumers of this technology, as many of you are. It's about adopting that technology, and it's about putting people in place who are comfortable going to these new areas. Another important aspect is the scalability. All the data doesn't have to go to the cloud. The cloud is a useful place for some of it, but being able to perform analytics, to be able to perform control functions at the appropriate level. Sometimes it's at the smart device, sometimes at the edge of a particular facility, and sometimes it is across multiple facilities where the cloud is especially helpful. By harnessing this technology in a thoughtful way and starting with a clear understanding of what your business problem is, the results can be profound. Nothing drives a return on investment like reducing downtime. And some of these technologies we've seen can reduce downtime, unplanned downtime, by up to 50%. Can increase efficiencies by 20% or more. And perhaps most importantly, as we simplify these processes and reduce the complexity, we find new ways to be even more productive. Simplification is a real key as we look out over the next 10 years. It starts with the appropriate data coming out of intelligent assets at the device, at the machine. If you don't have the data to be able to bring to the appropriate spot to be analyzed, then you're not going to be able to take advantage of the full power of the industrial Internet of Things. That's where the data is born, at these smart assets. And as it's turned into useful information, that's where you have the opportunity to get the true productivity. I want to emphasize the importance of people in this process. It takes people to start with identifying your most pressing business problem. It takes people from different parts of the organization and from trusted partners to be able to come together to develop pilot projects, to be able to apply this technology, to be able to develop a clear picture of what winning looks like, conduct a pilot, identify the results, iterate, and scale across the fleet. Those are important concepts as you continue on your journey to digitize your facilities and enjoy the productivity that will allow you to compete successfully against the very best in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Blake. That was a lot of information in a very short amount of time. Well, it's time to announce the Renewable Power Project of the Year and the Energy Storage Project of the Year. Here to announce the winning project is Jennifer Runyon, Chief Editor of Renewable Energy World magazine. There you go.
Hello, everyone. So I am delighted to announce the winner of our Renewable Energy Project of the Year. We had such a wide array of entries this year, which made judging these projects especially difficult. In fact, our 3 finalists in the renewables category represent some of the key trends that are happening in renewables today. They are China Resources Power's Ningxia Heiyuan Xinhua Mountain Wind Farm, Pacific Gas and Electric's Blue Lake Rancheria microgrid, and DC Department of General Services rooftop solar arrays. And the winner is China Resources Power. Don't know where they are. Okay, that's fine. I just need them to come up. I don't know where they are. Yeah. Congratulations. Nice to meet you. Congratulations. Nice to meet you. This is for you.
Nice to meet you. They
We're
want
going
us
to stand over here for a photo.
stand on this side.
I'll stand here?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go on the other side of it?
No, you're good.
I'm good? Okay. All right. Got it. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. And now onto the energy storage category. So we added this category as a new category this year because we recognized that with so much activity happening around energy storage, it made sense for us to evaluate energy storage projects on their own and select a winner. Our finalists in this category represent forward-thinking utilities that are breaking new ground with innovative uses of battery technologies. Our finalists are Gensa Energy's Columbia Microgrid, Imperial Irrigation District's Battery Energy Storage System, and Southern California Edison's Hybrid Battery Gas Turbines. And the winner is Southern California Edison. Down this way? All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, you're so
Appreciate the
welcome.
recognition.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so
It's good to
much.
see you.
Yeah,
Good to see you. All right. Pretty sure I pulled a hamstring trying to get on stage after Blake's presentation, but I'll be okay. Our next keynote speaker is Paul Browning. Mr. Browning was named President and Chief Executive Officer of Mitsubishi Hitachi Power Systems Americas in April 2016 and oversees all business activities in the Western Hemisphere. Mitsubishi provides a wide range of products and services for the power generation industry, including turbines, boilers, and environmental control systems. Mr. Browning has a lot of leadership experience in distributed and central power generation. Prior to joining Mitsubishi, Mr. Browning was President and Chief Executive Officer of Irving Oil Company, which owns and operates Canada's largest oil refinery. Before joining Irving Oil, Mr. Browning was President and Chief Executive Officer of the Thermal Products Division of GE Power and Water. At GE, he helped develop new power generation products and sold and executed large-scale projects throughout the world. He also worked for Caterpillar Corporation in a variety of leadership positions. He has a wealth of experience and knowledge. Please put your hands together for Mr. Paul Browning. Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Well, good morning. How is everybody? It's my honor to be here representing Mitsubishi Hitachi Power Systems and also Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. And it's also my honor to be part of this keynote team that's going to be speaking to you today. I just want to tell you ahead of time, by far the best presentation you're going to hear is from Stan Connolly at Gulf Power, who happens to be a very good customer of mine. Today, my theme is the change in power. It's a change that I think everybody in this room is feeling. We're feeling that our industry, which maybe has a history of being a slow-moving, slow-to-change industry, that the clock is turning faster and faster, and change is happening at a more and more rapid pace. And we're seeing all sorts of change. You know, change in power can mean a lot of things to people in the power industry. We have certain things that we think about. But a year ago, we started focusing on this. We actually created a website called changeandpower.com. And a year ago, we couldn't have anticipated a lot of things that have happened. Just for example, in the political world, in Europe, we've seen a change in power with the Brexit. Here in the Americas, we've seen a change in power with the US presidential elections. We've seen in our industry all sorts of changes in power. And I'm going to start out by talking about the developed world and some of the changes that we're seeing as new technologies and market forces take hold in the developed world. So one of the first places to start is the incredible change in the cost of electricity from cleaner sources of power generation. And I think everybody in this room is well aware that over the past decade, the levelized cost of electricity from renewable power sources, photovoltaic, solar, and onshore wind particularly, we've seen these dramatic reductions in cost. And we show here some data which show that wind power has had a 12% per year reduction in its levelized cost of electricity, onshore wind. And these are data from sort of representative good wind locations. Similarly, PV solar, and not even similarly, I mean even greater cost reductions that we've seen in PV solar, 20% per year on average over a decade. Just an incredible accomplishment from the PV solar industry. What I think is maybe not quite as well understood is that in the natural gas power generation side of things, we've actually seen a very similar cost reduction. Over the last 10 years, 12% per year on average in the levelized cost of electricity from a combined cycle power plant. Now, about 70% of that is because of new drilling technologies, which have reduced the cost of natural gas, both pipeline supplied natural gas and, as I'll talk about a little bit later, liquefied natural gas. But in addition to the drilling story, as gas turbine OEMs, we've made a lot of progress over the last 10 years. The cost, the dollars per kilowatt installed cost of today's power plant is 30% lower than it would have been 10 years ago. And in addition, the fuel efficiency, which 10 years ago might have been 58%, today, as I'll explain in a moment, is 64% on its way to 65%. So we're using cheaper fuel, we're using less of it, and the machine that converts natural gas into electricity costs 30% than it did 30% less than it did a decade ago. So all of this combination means that this combination of gas and renewables is now much more cost effective than older, more carbon intensive forms of power generation. And as a matter of fact, as we show on the bottom of this slide, if you take a 50% gas, 50% renewables mix, which is half and half solar and wind, it has a levelized cost of electricity using these data of $41 per megawatt hour. And that combination emits 85% less carbon dioxide than a retiring coal-fired power plant. And so what we're seeing in the developed world, which has a large installed base of very old, 40-plus-year-old coal-fired power generation, we're retiring it and we're replacing it with this very affordable and very carbon-efficient combination of natural gas and renewables. A great real example of this is a project you just heard about. It was a runner-up for a project of the year in natural gas. This is the Grand River Dam Authority's Grand River Energy Center. And they had a Grand and Greener program where they decided they were going to retire an older coal-fired power plant, and they decided to replace it with 400 megawatts of onshore wind PPAs and a 500 megawatt combined cycle power plant. This wasn't just any 500 megawatt combined cycle power plant. It was the first Mitsubishi J-class turbine in North America, 26th in the world. And we just had the groundbreaking a couple months ago, and I was able to announce at the groundbreaking it's the most fuel-efficient 60 hertz power plant in the world. So this combination of very inexpensive wind, and we all know Oklahoma has really inexpensive wind resources, and in combination, the natural gas for this power plant, the delivered cost of this natural gas is actually less than the rail cost of getting coal to their coal-fired power plant. So just the transportation cost of the coal is greater than the delivered cost of natural gas for this power plant. A great story. And when we think about this happening, not just at Grand River Dam Authority, but across the developed world, what we see is a dramatic reduction in the carbon intensity of the power grid. Now, we sponsored Carnegie Mellon University to take a look at the US power grid. And what they found is that since 2005, we've seen a 24% reduction in the CO2 emissions intensity from the US power grid. Over that same period of time, the power generation from the US power grid has been pretty flat, so it's actually a real 24% reduction, not just in intensity, but in total CO2 emissions. And when they dug down deeper and they said, well, what was the big reasons for that? 40% of that 24% reduction was driven by the uptake of renewables in the United States. Another 53% of it was the switch from coal to natural gas, and 4% of it was the natural gas fleet getting more fuel efficient. So 57% of this was from natural gas, 40% from renewables. 57 plus 40 is 97. Basically, the whole story is that natural gas and renewables are displacing coal-fired power generation and causing this dramatic reduction in CO2 emissions. I think this is a story, we often hear doom and gloom about climate change and why aren't we doing more, why aren't we moving faster. This is a great example of real progress that's been made. And I also want to point out when we think about political change and some of the things happening today in the news, this was driven, as I just explained in the prior chart, not by politics. This was driven by markets. This was driven by technology. And so there's every reason to expect that this trend is going to continue as long as the price of natural gas, the levelized cost of renewables continues on its decline, and we have this older coal-fired power plant which needs to be retired and replaced with these newer, cleaner power generation technologies. Tremendous progress. So that's the story in the developed world, but we all know that the growth that's happening in our industry is in the developing world. And this is another big change in power. In an industry that was born in Europe and the United States and Japan, we're now seeing that the growth is happening in other countries around the world. And so this drives us to think about many things that have to change from the standpoint of an original equipment manufacturer, an EPC. We're chasing jobs in different parts of the world, and we're thinking very differently about how we do business in these new parts of the world that are growing so rapidly. So what's really interesting to me is that another big change in power that we've seen in the last year is the Paris Climate Change Conference, which more and more countries from the developing world are signing up to ambitious carbon reduction initiatives. As a matter of fact, most of the countries in the developing world have signed up for this. And so we're starting to see real progress. One of the best examples of that is China, which we're seeing for the first time showing signs that carbon emissions are starting to peak from their power sector. China is now the world's largest market for renewable power generation. It's also one of the world's largest markets for natural gas power generation. So we're seeing developing countries, not just China, but around the world. And as we think about where we're selling some of our most fuel-efficient products, our new air-cooled J-class turbine, we just signed a deal with GEL at their Humai project in Peru. We just had another project, a 5 gigawatt project in Asia. We used to sell our sort of lower technology products into the developing world. We're now selling the best stuff we have into the developing world because they're demanding the most carbon efficient products that we have. And of course, we're seeing a huge uptake of renewables in the developing world as well. So this is another significant change in power in our industry. So we're starting to see the convergence of these different trends. We have got global growth, again, a lot of it in the developing world. We have new climate accords where the world is coming together and making pledges around carbon intensity. We're seeing new technology in the natural gas combined cycle products. We're seeing new drilling technology, and it's also leading to liquefied natural gas, which again, in the developing world, which oftentimes doesn't have their own indigenous sources, particularly in Asia, of natural gas. The fact that LNG is now being exported from the United States, from Australia, from Qatar in greater quantities means the price of natural gas delivered in Asia has dropped from $16 a million BTU just a few years ago to in the range of $6 to $8 today. Again, an enormous change in power that's driving change in our industry. And of course, as I said, around the world, we're seeing this dramatic fall in the cost of renewable energy. One thing that I would add to that, and I'm glad to say that it got highlighted already, is one of an NRG project that used our carbon capture technology in Houston, the Petronova project. One big difference between the developed world and the developing world is the developing world has a very large fleet of brand new coal-fired power generation that's going to be around for a very long time. And we have to think about what are the answers in countries that are right now don't have any incentive to certainly retire these brand new coal-fired power plants. We need to think about carbon capture and sequestration. This project that we heard about in Houston, I hope you paid attention to what they said. It was on schedule, on budget. We hear a lot of not so great stories about clean coal, other projects. And I just want to say that this is a great example, on schedule, on budget, collecting CO2 from an existing coal-fired power plant. This is exactly the kind of technology that we need to deploy around the developing world in these brand new coal-fired power plants, and something that we're going to continue to push. So another change in power, as we've heard about from an earlier speaker, is the digital power plant that we're all the OEMs and many of our customers are working on. You know, it used to be we'd have an analytical version of our product, we'd have a physical version of our product, and as soon as we started selling the physical version, the analytical version was a little bit in the background. But today we're thinking very differently. At MHPS, we have a new digital product we're calling Tomoni. You probably saw our enormous poster on the way in here. Tomoni is a Japanese word that means together with, and they often use it in the context of traveling together with a companion. And nowadays, we're thinking about this physical turbine and this digital turbine as traveling together with our customer as throughout the life cycle of this product. And we have this analytical decision engine now that can think about and predict what's going to happen in the future before it happens to make our product much more predictive in predicting when it's going to need maintenance and predicting many other things that have a lot of value for our customers. And as you see, we're moving up a value chain for our customers, starting with what we've been doing for 17 years now, remote monitoring and diagnostics, but moving up the value chain and on our way to fully autonomous capability for a large combined cycle power plant. This is a power plant that can communicate with other power plants around it, communicate with users of electricity, communicate with weather forecasters, communicate with many other machines around it, and communicate with battery storage, communicate with renewable resources, and understand it and make its own dispatch decisions. It's like automatic grid control, but it's the next step. It's more like, it's a predictive form of automatic grid control. Another big change in power we're seeing in the gas turbine industry is the transition from F-class to advanced class gas turbines. And I have a list here on the left side showing not just us, but our competitors, the advancements we've been making in our advanced class products. And when we say advanced class, we mean just basically anything after F-class. So that's G, H, J. And you can see the products are getting larger over time. They're getting more fuel efficient. And on the chart below that, you can see that we're selling fewer and fewer F-class turbines, more and more of the advanced class turbines. And this is where I think a really interesting change in power is happening on the right side of this. You're all familiar with who the leaders are of F-class technology. But what you may not realize is that there are new leaders when it comes to the advanced class technology. And as a matter of fact, our company, it has more operating hours and a larger installed base of these advanced class gas turbines than the next two guys combined. So we're seeing another change in power, which is as the new technology emerges, Some companies are in the lead, and other companies are racing to catch up. So, another big change in power that is affecting us, as I said, global growth into developing countries. And really, for a Japanese headquartered company, this started in the developed world, right here in the United States and in the Americas, where 15 years ago we had 5 employees. Today we have over 2,000. We manufacture our products here in Savannah, Georgia, and in Florida. And we have a growing, we just acquired Pratt Whitney Power Systems in the past year. We're increasing our investment here in the United States and other parts of the developed world. But at the same time, we're moving towards the developing world. And as a matter of fact, I was able to be in Saudi Arabia with our global CEO, Kenji Ando-san. And we were able to announce that we're not only expanding our manufacturing and repair facilities in Saudi Arabia, but we are also very much looking into manufacturing our JAC gas turbine in the kingdom for supply to the Middle East. So we think there could be a similar growth story in Saudi Arabia that we created over the last 15 years in the United States. So these are all changes that have been happening in the last period of time. A change that's coming for the future, and again, you're hearing other speakers talk about this, is that everything is becoming intelligent, everything is becoming connected, everything is becoming electrified. And this means, I think, our industry is becoming more and more important in terms of establishing what we think of as a modern lifestyle, a modern economy. If everything's electric, everything's intelligent, and everything is connected, that means electricity is just at the foundation of a modern economy. And it also means we need to be thinking differently about products of the future. And so this leads me to my last point, and an announcement we're making today, that we have actually broken ground this year on the world's first 65% efficient combined cycle power plant that'll be capable of fully autonomous operation. We're building it at the same location we built our T-Point facility, which is where we demonstrated all of our new gas turbine technology in the past. Kansai Electric has been the off-taker for that facility, and we're now starting a second facility. Again, we've already broken ground. This isn't something that we're talking about doing in the future. It's happening right now. 65% combined cycle efficiency, fully autonomous operation, COD 2020. So welcome to the future. We are embracing this change in power. We're looking forward to working with many of you, many new collaborators that we're working with, particularly in the digital area, as we lead our industry in this change in power. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul. Outstanding presentation. How are we doing so far? Doing okay? I think it's going to get even better from here. We have 3 more outstanding keynote speakers that are going to shed light on a lot of issues that our industry is facing. Well, it's time to move on. It's time to announce the best CHP project of the year and the best overall power project of the year. The finalists for best CHP project are NRG Energy's Green Headquarters in Princeton, New Jersey, and China Resources Power Holdings Taozhou Heat and Power Cogeneration Plant. And the winner is NRG's Green Headquarters project in New Jersey. Here. Let's go over here. All right, same drill. Same drill. You hold that, I'll button up. He's He's very picky, that guy.
I tell you.
And I'll do this. There you go.
The building is nearly at the end of the preparation. In addition to the CHP system, the project also features 2 backup generators and a 500-kilowatt battery storage system. The storage system supports the facility's demand response mechanism and covers electrical faults and solar faults.
Okay.
The on-site power plant was built to withstand events like Superstorm Sandy. As a result of Energy's innovative thinking and strategic solutions,
I guess they're waiting on something.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is going to start getting a
I
little.
told you they were picky.
Yeah, it's going to start getting a little personal if we hold hands much longer here.
Okay. Thank you,
All right.
David. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Take care. The paparazzi, they are a little picky this morning. They do a great job, though. Our last and final category is Best Overall Power Project of the Year. The problem is we couldn't decide which project to choose as this year's overall winner. So what did we do? We chose 2 winners in this category, and they are very worthy projects. These are 2 amazing projects worthy of special recognition. So this year's overall power projects of the year are the Petronova project by NRG Energy and the battery gas turbine hybrid project by Southern California Edison. David Greeley and Vibhu Kaushik and his team, come on up. We'll just have them both come up. We'll take pictures one at a time. We'll do Vibhu first.
Okay,
I'll let you hand that to him.
I will.
Come on up.
Yeah. Well, this is the overall.
Right here.
Thank you again, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Stand by. Right there. We done? All right, thanks.
Thank you so much, guys.
You bet. Thanks,
Thank you.
Vibhu. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll catch up later.
Hey,
Yeah.
absolutely. We'll see you tonight at the mini toast. All right, okay.
Same to you. Congrats.
You're just,
Yeah. This is crazy.
my gosh. You're raking them in today. Thank you. All right. Thanks, David. All right. One more time, big round of applause for our overall projects of the year. Turns out David Greeley of NRG Energy is becoming the star of the show this morning. Our next keynote speaker is Stan Conley. Mr. Conley is Chairman, President, and CEO of Gulf Power Company. Gulf Power is a subsidiary of Southern Company, one of the largest power producers in the U.S. Gulf Power is headquartered in Pensacola and provides power to Northwest Florida. Mr. Conley began his career with Southern Company in 1989 as a co-op student at Georgia Power's Plant Yates. There, he took on several leadership roles in customer operations, sales and marketing, and power generation. He served as group leader of engineering at Plant Wansley before being named plant manager of Mississippi Power's Plant Watson in 2003 and Plant Daniel in 2004. He was then named plant manager of Alabama Power's plant Berry. Before joining Gulf Power, Mr. Conley also served as senior vice president and senior production officer for Georgia Power Company. As you can see, he has a lot of great experience managing generation assets. Please put your hands together for Mr. Stan Conley.
Thank you, Russ. Well done. Good job. Thank you. You taking that one with you? All right. Well, good morning. Well, it's great to see a great crowd. I wish I could see the great crowd with these lights in my eyes. Look, it's great to follow Paul Browning. He's been a great friend, great partner too. He was right. Southern Company and Mitsubishi have partnered over the years on a number of projects, just like we have with a number of you, so it was an honor for me to follow Paul. I got to tell you, it was also an honor for me to follow Blake up here. We discovered yesterday, we both went to Georgia Tech, we're both mechanical engineers, and I got to tell you, he helped dispel the myth that was there when I came out of school, that you couldn't do calculus, thermodynamics, and publicly speak at the same time. He did that very well a little while ago. Blake, thank you for setting that bar high for me. So, building the future of energy. I want to talk to you a little bit about what Southern Company is doing with our business model, but I want to spend the majority of our time talking about convergence and collaboration on the customer's premise. And I think that's where there's a lot of activity happening in this notion of making, moving, and selling energy behind the meter that may not necessarily be your focus day in and day out, but I think as an industry, as we think about our retail customers, is something we have to think about. And that's part of how we're building the future of energy. Proud to be here representing Gulf Power Company, again, a part of Southern Company. I want to kind of walk you through the change in our company over the last few years, but certainly want to recognize to start with our 4 premier electric utilities in the Southeast: Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, and Gulf Power Companies. Gulf Power Company has been in existence a little over 90 years now. Southern Company 100 years. And we hope we've established a strong reputation and strong heritage for serving customers in the Southeast. But you know what? Last year was a big year for us. It was a big year for growth as we think about filling in what I refer to as the value chain of energy for our customers. One of the things we did last year, we found a great partner in the gas business, and we were successful in merging with Atlanta Gas Light, now Southern Company Gas. Southern Company Gas now resides in 7 different states, as you can see from the map there, local distribution companies in those territories, and as well, they're the owners of, or partial owners of, a natural gas pipeline network, the largest of which is the Southern Natural Gas Pipeline, which serves a number of our power generation facilities in the Southeast. So that was a big step for us to complement what we've been doing for, like I said, for nearly 100 years in serving our electric retail customers. Now we have some 9 million retail energy customers, electric and gas, across that footprint. We add to that a business that we've been in for a number of years now, our competitive wholesale generation business, Southern Power. It's probably a company that many of you know. Today is owners and operators of facilities across 11 states. Natural gas-fired assets, biomass, wind, and solar. And they've been in existence, a part of this family now, for some 15 years. Beyond that, we also had another major acquisition last year that I'm going to spend a good bit of time talking about today, and that's our PowerSecure business unit. PowerSecure is an innovative energy solutions provider, largely to commercial and industrial customers, but certainly to utilities like us across the nation. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail as well. So you can see our footprint expanding, and if you think about our non-utility pieces of the business, Pivotal LNG, Sequent Energy Management, Pivotal Home Solutions, and others, we literally touch customers across the nation. From Texas to Maine, from California to the Carolinas, we're honored to be in this space, innovating along with you on how we take care of our customers and ultimately take care of all the stakeholders we're engaged with. I got to share with you a piece of our business model, and we think an important piece of our business model as we talk about serving customers where they are, is this notion of, we call this the circle of life, our customer-focused business model. And you'll see where the customer resides in that model. It's at the center of what we do. But if you think about it from the energy network, you think about high reliability, affordability, low prices, and high customer satisfaction. Those are critical elements of how we all want to be sure we're serving those retail customers. We also recognize, as you work your way up the left-hand side of that circle, that it takes constructive regulation, both at the federal level and the state level, to make that work. And when that regulation is constructive and we can work in partnership with the regulators to do good policy work, eventually we can also continue this cycle of healthy capital spending. And that cycle of healthy capital spending certainly impacts and benefits our customers. So I hope you see how we view the circle of life, but the important part here is you keep the customer at the center of what we do. So let's talk about how that relationship with the customer, just as an example, is changing. And I've chosen to use the power grid as an example of that. Yesterday's power grid kind of reflects that vertical integration from generation through transmission and distribution down to the meter. And certainly we're proud to serve those 9 million customers where they are across those jurisdictions. But you know what? That's yesterday's grid. Let's talk about tomorrow's smart grid, or today's smart grid. I can tell you there's a lot about tomorrow blended here too. Look, back to putting the customer at the center of that conversation. There's so many things happening in the power generation industry, right up to the meter. But look, let's spend some more time talking about moving and selling beyond the meter. Really, that meter has been obviated in a lot of ways by technology. I think the convergence of technology behind the meter, and look, the collaboration with new partners and with our customers behind that meter really is where we are spending a lot of our time strategically as a company thinking about where the future will take us. And look, at the top of that, you can see 3 small examples of that. The meter itself certainly used to be a one-way device, telling us as a company how much we should charge you every month. But now that meter can provide information to the consumer behind it in ways that we probably never envisioned with all of the smart technologies in those homes and those businesses. An example of those smart technologies, the thermostat itself, just as an example of the device that's on these premises that customers use today to control their energy conversation, to control their energy network, and at times reverse the flow of energy back to us. And clearly what you see there is a Tesla Power Pack, another example of a distributed infrastructure device that is becoming more and more prevalent on the customer premise. So if you think about it again through an energy value chain, I mentioned this earlier, this is our way to try to represent how we've tried to fill in the energy value chain of Southern Company over the last few years so that it's more complete, it's deeper, and it's more inclusive of all the things energy related that we think our customers want to work with us on. And I'd really focus you to the right-hand side where it says sell and consume. We now have the focus behind the meter that we didn't have 3 or 4 years ago. We've always felt we were a trusted energy partner with our customers. But today more than ever, you've got to be an even deeper, a more inclusive, and a broader in terms of the things that you can offer behind that meter. And I want to talk to you about some of the things that we're doing there. Again, with the focus on making sure the convergence of technology and the collaboration behind that meter with that consumer is as good as it's ever been. So, a few things to talk about. Power Secure, I mentioned that earlier. We're proud to add this innovative energy solutions provider, kind of a one-stop shop, if you will, primarily for our large commercial industrial customers, for distributed infrastructure, for energy storage, for reliability and resiliency. Fuel cells being an example of that. I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. Power Secure has deployed some 2,000 megawatts worldwide in its existence. And today, they're operating some 1,200 megawatts of energy at 1,600 sites, primarily here in the U.S., working with those consumers to give them the highest reliability they could possibly have. They work very closely to really dial in for that customer the exact reliability requirements that they have. and we're finding a great deal of success there. I'll give you one example. So I'm from Florida, obviously. We've had a rough summer. Not many people here in this room any happier than hurricane season was over than me. But we had an incredible summer. Irma was one of the storms that you all heard of. And look, I need to thank all of the utilities in this room that sent help to Florida during Irma. An incredible storm. Some 60,000 men and women line workers came to our state to help us. 250 companies came to help us. And I got to tell you, the resiliency of the grid today versus what it was 10, 12 years ago is incredible. Some 7.8 million customers across the Southeast, beyond Florida, were impacted, and we were 95% recovered within 7 days. An incredible restoration story given the magnitude of that storm. As a parallel, though, I'll share with you that PowerSecure works with some 800 consumers in the state of Florida with these behind-the-meter reliability solutions, whether they're storage or generators or whatever they may be. Those 800 customers maintained a 98% reliability, not just after the storm, but during the storm. And we're proud of that performance. We certainly look for ways to make it even better. But that's just an example of how PowerSecure is working with customers to keep them going, whether it's hospitals, military bases, you name it. A variety of customers in Florida was kind of the epicenter of our learning this year. And as well, PowerSecure today is in Puerto Rico. We're proud to be down there supporting that very, very difficult restoration process. We have some 400 men and women down there restoring power, and that's just another example that kind of in this middle space, the utility infrastructure space that we are working in. Now, last year was another big year, not only for Southern Company, but for PowerSecure themselves, in that they announced a partnership with Bloom Energy, a Silicon Valley-based maker of fuel cells, these solid oxide fuel cell technologies. And look, I think this is another example of us following the customer momentum. So many names you know, Walmart, AT&T, Apple, Google, we're already having conversations with Bloom. And we found a way to partner with Bloom, not just with their fuel cells, but to marry it with our PowerSecure's behind-the-meter infrastructure, whether it's energy storage, switchgear, ride-through technologies. They've packaged an incredible product here. And you know what? We found some success early last year. We'll keep growing this. Home Depot was one of the initial customers that asked us to install these at 60 of their locations across the country. Kaiser Permanente, some 30 megawatts of fuel cell technology will be installed through this partnership at hospitals, clinics, administrative centers. And again, we're finding ways to dial in for those customers the reliability and generation solutions they need. Less than 3 months ago in August, Equinix, another data center customer, we're going to partner with them, and over the life of those projects we'll do with them across their data centers, some 660,000 tons of emissions will be avoided. Another example of how clean technology is enabling this lower carbon future. So, moving forward, Department of Defense. Many of you probably know this, but did you know that the Department of Defense is one of the largest energy users in the world? And that's not just electricity and natural gas. Obviously, that's fuels for aircraft and other engines. But right here in the United States, they are the single largest energy user in the United States. And if you just take their electricity usage, it equates to some 2.6 million residential customers, to give you some scale. We're incredibly proud to have some great military installations in the Southeast that we've been working with. You can see Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. And we are supporting the installation of large-scale solar on these installations, at 19 of these installations across the Southeast. And if you think about energy as a critical enabler of the missions the military has, it's very obvious why energy is important, but you know what? If you think about investing in the military's future, it's a big budget item for them as well. And finding ways to improve their renewable energy profile is a goal the Department of Defense has had now for some years. They want to be at 25% of their energy consumption through renewable sources by 2025. These are the type projects that customers are demanding our engagement in ways that we'd never thought of before. And we're proud to host these projects to make them more resilient, to make them more reliable, to make them more sustainable for the long term. Electric transportation, another one. Electric vehicles continue to be on the growth curve. We certainly hope we'll advance that more even in the future. I'll give you some examples of what we're doing at seaports, airports, rail yards, distribution centers in the Southeast. The Port of Savannah, the Georgia Port Authority, has converted 27 ship-to-shore cranes from diesel to electric, saving some 2 million gallons of diesel fuel, and as well they've converted their refrigerated container racks to electricity, saving 4.5 million gallons of fuel. Just an example. Go all the way to Hartsfield-Jackson. The kind of the running joke we have in the Southeast is even when you die, you got to go through Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. At some point, I bet you've all been through there. If you'll look when you're there, you'll notice the vast majority of the support vehicles at Hartsfield are now electric. It's an efficient electrification effort on behalf of Hartsfield-Jackson to again improve their sustainability, and it was a solution they were looking for, we were able to help them with. We're proud to have been a part of this electric vehicle transportation conversation for a long time. And just about a month ago, Southern Company and a number of other companies, including GE as an example, announced the formation of the Alliance for Transportation Electrification. Again, an effort to grow and accelerate, whether it's the charging infrastructure or it's the adaptation and adoption of electric vehicles. Again, our customers are thinking that way, and we need to be in the conversation with them. And then research and development. Southern Company's proud of its investments in research and development. We'll continue to do that, whether it's the National Carbon Capture Center or it's right there with our customers. And this is one example of where we're trying to do that. I mentioned electric vehicles a little while ago. Tesla, as we all know, is really investing in the battery technologies. And we want to explore that and see what it can mean for our commercial industrial customers. And this is at Gulf Power Company, our McCrary Training and Storm Center. We're installing 10 250 kW Tesla battery packs. We're going to integrate them together, test them over a 2-year period, put them through their paces so that we know what that looks like for our customers down the road. And hopefully and possibly, we can be that partner should they choose to invest in this as the technology continues to evolve. So I want to circle back. And look, I'll circle back to the circle. We think the circle of life keeps us centered where we need to be centered when it comes to the convergence of technology and the collaboration with new partners. Keeping that customer in the forefront of that conversation is so vital to us. And look, some of this is an uncomfortable conversation. Our energy businesses are changing. Energy markets are changing. But you know what, as leaders, it's not our job to make our teams necessarily feel comfortable all the time. It's our job to bring some uncomfort to those conversations, to push us into new places. I hope I've given you some examples of some ways we're trying to push ourselves, our company, into some new spaces and give us the optionality to serve our customers in ways we haven't ever before. It's an honor to be here with you today. It's an honor to be a part of this conversation. So many of you have been partners with Southern Company. Thank you for that. We look forward to partnering with you in these spaces, not just make moving and selling upstream of the customer, but make moving and selling downstream of the customer. Thank you all. We appreciate your partnership and look forward to meeting others of you.
Thank you, Stan. Good job. Thank you, Stan. Stan is the first of 2 power producers we'll be hearing from this morning. We'll be hearing from Stefan Bird of Pacific Power here in just a moment. It's time to announce this year's winners of the Peabody Energy Clean Coal Leadership Awards. Joining me on stage now to help hand out those awards will be Brian Galley. Brian is with Peabody Energy. Brian, come on up. Thank you, Brian. Well, we are all well aware of the challenges facing coal-fired power producers. All too often we hear news of another closure of a coal-fired plant for a wide range of reasons. But what you don't hear much about is the progress this industry is making in reducing emissions and how clean our coal-fired plants have truly become. We think it's a very important story to tell, and it's important that we recognize these tremendous achievements at events like this. That's why we're very proud to provide a forum each year for the Peabody Clean Coal Leadership Awards. These awards were established to recognize and honor the cleanest coal-fired plants in the world. We'll be recognizing these plants in 3 categories: best SO2 rate, best NOx rate, and best heat rate. We'll also be announcing a Pioneer Award for CCS and an award for leadership and innovation. So let's start with the best SO2 rate. The award for the best or lowest SO2 emissions rate goes to Dynegy's Duck Creek Power Station in Illinois. You stand right there.
Got it.
I'll stand right here. Thank you. Congratulations. You bet. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and move on to the plant with the best or lowest NOx rate. The award for best NOx emissions rate goes to Shenergy Company's Shanghai Waigaoqiao No. 3 power plant. Here to accept the award is Shi Min, the plant's general manager. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, very good. Our next category is best or lowest heat rate, the most efficient coal-fired plant in the world. The Peabody Award for the best heat rate goes to, once again, Shenergy Company for Shanghai Waigaoqiao No. 3 power plant. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
You're raking it in. All right, our next Peabody Award is for the world's best new coal plant. This year's best new coal plant leadership and innovation award goes to Kyushu Electric Power for the Matsura Power Station Unit Number 2. Unfortunately, Kyushu could not be here to accept the award, so we'll wrap that award in some bubble wrap and get it in the mail to you. Congratulations to Kyushu. And finally, we are going to name this year's Carbon Capture and Storage Pioneer Award. This award goes to Southern Company and the Department of Energy for the National Carbon Capture Center in Alabama. Here to accept the Pioneer Award is the director of the National Carbon Capture Center, John Northington. All right, I think we're done.
You want me to send that award? We'll take that
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Okay.
sure, you bet. One more time, big round of applause for all of our award winners for Peabody Energy Clean Coal Awards. Thank you. It's time to introduce our next keynote speaker. Stefan Bird is President and CEO of Pacific Power. The utility provides power to 740,000 customers across Oregon, Washington, and California. It also owns one of the largest transmission grids in the U.S. Mr. Bird has been leading the utility's transition to a cleaner, more resilient system. The company has added more than 3,000 megawatts of renewable capacity. That makes Pacific Power the second largest owner of wind power among regulated utilities here in the U.S. In addition, Mr. Bird has been a key figure in efforts to develop the Western power market in a way that optimizes diversity, reliability, and renewable power. Before assuming his current position as CEO of Pacific Power, Mr. Bird served as President and CEO of Cal Energy Generation US and Vice President of Development and Acquisitions for Berkshire Hathaway Energy. We're very, very lucky to have him here with us today. Please help me welcome Stefan Bird.
Thank you, Russell. Well, it's fantastic to be here in Las Vegas at PowerGen International. Very proud to be here on behalf of Pacific Corp and our over 5,000 employees. Is it a great time to be an engineer or what? Only thing better that I could think of than being a CEO of Pacific Corp would be to be a new engineer coming into the market where we have the opportunity in this 100-year-old industry to actually reimagine the entire business from top to bottom. Obviously, some exciting things are happening even right today, where we can not only reimagine what that world can look like, we can actually be a part in making that happen today. And I look forward to talking through a few things about what we're doing at Pacific Corp to drive that transformation forward and help lead that forward. So what's changing? You heard a little bit about this morning already. You don't have to look too far around you and you see what's the most prolific addition of new resources in the United States, and that's renewable energy. Who would have thought 20 years ago that wind power and solar power would be cost-effective and competitive with baseload coal, natural gas, or nuclear generation? Yet that is exactly where we are today. You saw slides earlier this morning that showed 70, 80, 90% reductions in just the last several years. That has made that technology the technology of choice. And not only on a cost basis, but it's what our customers are demanding. They want not only reliable, affordable, and safe power, they also want clean energy. And they want it on demand. They want it on that little iPhone device. They want the convenience and control and Amazon-like service. While those are challenging goals that we all have to meet, it also provides that perfect opportunity for engineers who love complex situations, complex problems, and as you can see, the technology that's arising today is giving us the tools we need in order to actually deliver that. So to begin with, I'd just like to share a little bit about Pacific Corp so you have some context for what I'm going to talk about more this morning. So Pacific Corp began a little over 100 years ago. We were a small hydro facility and distribution utility in Oregon, as well as in Utah, and we began with coal-fired generation on the east side of our system. Fast forward to today, we cover a service territory that's equivalent roughly to 2 Floridas. We serve 6 northwestern states, including Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah on the east side of our system, and that's under the brand Rocky Mountain Power. And on the west side of our system, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, and that's under the Pacific Power brand that I oversee. Combined together, we are PacifiCorp. Helpful, I think, to look at a map, and as you can see on the map in the blue shaded areas, that's our service territories in the west and the east. You can notice right away we're not your typical, if you will, or more common utility with a focused generation transmission area in one state. We traverse most of the western U.S. We're the largest grid operator in the western U.S. With over 16,500 miles. We're connected to 200 other transmission operators and balancing authority areas. And we have about 74 generating units, including coal, wind, natural gas, hydro, solar, biomass, very diversified fleet across that area, and our customers are diverse as well. And all of that, I think, is an interesting backdrop as you think about how do we move forward to that clean energy, sustainable future, and deliver that energy that's both reliable, affordable, low cost, and increasingly clean. So when Berkshire Hathaway Energy, our parent company, acquired PacifiCorp about 10 years ago, they made a commitment to rapidly decarbonize and expand our renewable fleet. And you can see that pictured here on this slide. It's been an impressive and very attractive opportunity for our customers, given the low-cost renewables that we can access, both wind and solar. And you can see in the green bars, the bulk of that since 2006 has been in the wind arena. A lot in eastern Wyoming, as well as the Columbia River Gorge, but also scattered in other places on our system. And in the yellow bars, you can see very rapidly, as those costs have come down, we've been able to add a tremendous amount of solar energy to our fleet as well. And if you look at the far right, the very last bar, we announced earlier this year a $3.5 billion investment program that will add double the amount of wind that we have in our system, plus new transmission, repower our entire existing fleet of about 1,000 megawatts of wind turbines, put larger rotors and generators, and that entire investment more than pays for itself and generates savings for our customers while also decarbonizing and cleaning our energy supply. So as engineers, we look at that and say, well, that sounds great. We know our customers want it, but it comes with a challenge. Wind and solar power is intermittent. It's highly variable. Solar's pretty predictable day in, day out, but it can be impacted by clouds, snowfall, other impacts. On the wind side, a very highly variable resource, although with larger rotors and generators, we're seeing capacity factors continue to rise and provide more reliable power. But if you look at a single wind plant, here's a picture of one of our projects in Wyoming, a 200 megawatt wind project that in the middle of the day went from 0 to near full nameplate, dropped down over the course of a couple hours, hovered around there, and then ramped up again. And so you can see the dramatic ramping challenge on an intra-hour basis is certainly a key issue that we have to address. You know, the shaded area is the forecast that we had on a day-ahead basis, and you can see the shapes are pretty close. We're getting better and better at forecasting, but the ramp issue continues to be a key issue that we have to address. So you might ask, well, how do you solve that? And of course, we have technology that can store energy, but as you know, the grid today does not have a tremendous amount of storage capability, and yet we have to balance the grid minute to minute to keep it stable and avoid blackouts. So we could add pump storage, compressed air, or even batteries that we hear a lot about today are getting lower cost every day. But what if I told you we could provide a free battery, and not only free, but provide energy that would actually produce savings? Welcome to the best opportunity in the market, which is to leverage resource diversity. Again, it's intuitive to anybody that understands the western U.S., where we've got prolific wind resources in Wyoming, the Columbia River Gorge, various parts of California, combined with solar that's in the solar-intensive areas in the Southwest, as well as in southern Oregon and Utah. The sun doesn't shine at the same time every day. The wind doesn't blow at the same time every day. And so if you could leverage that diversity, again, all of us engineers that work with risk profiles, if you can put a portfolio together that's uncorrelated assets, you've got a much lower risk opportunity. So you would say, even though the grid is connected across the western U.S., certainly we're taking advantage of that diversity, right? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. Up until 2014, this is the picture of the western U.S. Every one of those colored diagrams is an independent balancing authority area, which means on an intra-hour basis, it's as if we had 38 Hawaiis across the western U.S. That means that every one of those balancing authority areas has to deal with the fluctuations of wind and solar or other disruptions in their area within that hour to keep the rest of the grid stable. Less than ideal. Asking the question, what if, is what we did back in 2013, and we committed in that year to build a new market across the western U.S. and partnered with the California ISO. So between ourselves and the California ISO, the two largest grid operators in the western U.S., we were able to take advantage of a very large footprint with our 6-state service territory, the bulk of California, provide 17,000 nodes of data operating in seconds to a supercomputer that could then optimize that entire fleet every 5 minutes. That enabled flows to move between our service territory and California and enable capture of that obvious resource diversity. What's happened since then, as others have seen the benefits of that market, there's now about half a dozen utilities that have already joined that market, including the one that powers this facility here today, NV Energy, who's also a sister company within the Berkshire Hathaway family. But all those other entities that you see on that map have committed to join by the end of 2020 in various stages. And so we've seen now for the first time that opportunity realized to unify the Western market and capture that opportunity. The next couple slides will put a little more color on how this actually works. So first, what's it mean in terms of economic benefits? You can look at this slide and see that we began with relatively small benefits as they've accumulated over the last 3 years, nearly to the day. Over $250 million in savings have been generated by putting that market together. That's with no infrastructure investment of any kind. Beyond, in our case, it was an $18 million investment back in 2013 and 14 of software, telemetry, the digital technology that we talk about today to integrate those systems. That paid for itself for us in less than a year. Over $100 million have been saved for our PacifiCorp customers, and more than double that west-wide. And those numbers just continue to grow as other parties join, more diversity is added, more transfer capability is added, and of course as more renewables are added. What does that look like in terms of imports and exports? Here's a picture of one day last year, just to give you an idea of what I think you would say is the obvious opportunity. In the middle of the day, what we used to call on-peak energy, meaning the prices were the highest in the middle of the day, is now off-peak. Here we are in December 18th last year, and you can see in the middle of that diagram, California is exporting power. They have more than they can use for their load in the state within the Cal ISO's footprint. So their opportunity at that point is either to curtail that zero cost, zero carbon emitting resource, or they could transfer it, which is what happened here to us, and we were able to back off fossil generating resources that incur a cost or add emissions, and therefore obviously save those emissions and save those costs. In the nighttime, when the sun isn't shining, the reverse happens. We've got excess wind in Wyoming and in the Columbia River Gorge, and because of our interconnected system and this new market, we're able to export that energy to California. So you might ask, well, that sounds great for wind and solar, and for sure you're using hydro and natural gas, right, in order to swing and manage that fluctuation in supply. Coal we've always thought of as, by definition, a base load, maximum output, maximum availability resource. But in a market like this, when prices in many cases go to zero or even negative, any sort of fuel cost is not your least cost resource. And so what we need today are indeed flexible units that can move with that. So the question is, Can coal provide that capability? And the answer is yes in spades. In fact, in our system today, it is the most flexible, most valuable, flexible resource in our fleet. A bit of a complicated slide here. What I've got is on the left is days before we went live with this unit in the EIM and provided our operators with additional tools. For the first time in 40 years, our coal plant operators now have a dashboard that gives them a price signal. They didn't have it in the slide on the left. They had not optimized their controls, and they were limited to an operating range that went from a minimum to a maximum with not a lot of capability. And it was chunky. You can see the kind of step changes on the left. Even as the market went negative, as you can see on the bottom chart, we weren't able to capture that opportunity. Again, less than ideal. Fast forward to this slide on the right, and you can see that it's following a dispatch signal very accurately every 5 minutes. It's provided that information in advance, and the minimum, if you compare on the chart on the left, went from a little over 220, 250 megawatts to almost half that at a little over 100 megawatts. And so we're now able to use the entire operating range of that coal fleet at double the ramp rate and capture those savings. Along with those dollar savings that are passing through at our customers, we've realized emissions reductions well over 10% relative to our historical 5-year operating level when those plants operated at that more baseload level. Tremendous savings, tremendous impact in terms of cars equivalent off the road, over 1 million cars equivalent for that drop in emissions. So how did we do that? Again, there was a price signal, a new set of market information that we were able to provide to our operators. There were absolutely changes that had to be made in how we operated those coal plants. There were obviously control systems changes. There was tuning to be able to operate within NOx parameters, say at that low load level. There were hydraulic tensioning systems that we had to put in place in our coal mills, but these were all relatively small investments for truly significant savings that can be generated. All because our engineers and our operators and our team took the opportunity to think differently and think about how we could deliver more value from the same assets. So already here you can see in just this one example, tremendous opportunity to actually move that clean energy future forward and not only do it with cleaner energy, but at even lower costs. Over $250 million saved to date and growing every day. We've added more renewables on the grid without adding a single bit of additional infrastructure and wire, and taking cars off the road just by operating our assets more effectively. In closing, I'd just like to say this is only one example of the things that our folks are doing. Our 5,000 people strong are working every day to come up with more opportunities to make that future happen today. I mentioned our $3.5 billion Energy Vision 2020 project that's going through the regulatory process today. We're installing a new AMI network that will provide for the first time two-way interconnectivity between our customers and ourselves, so that 2 million customers across our system will now have the opportunity to talk back to us in the same way that we have dealt for years with our large customers and provide them new service capability. We're also repowering our existing fleet with new turbine technology. If you think about it from an engineering standpoint, we're using the same tower, the same foundation, putting a larger generator with larger rotors, capturing more wind, generating more capability from that exact same wind resource, and doing that at a lower cost. Not only is it a lower cost, by investing in that case a little over $1 billion, we're delivering savings to our customers beginning day one. Truly an extraordinary opportunity. So I'd just like to invite all of you, as you think about the opportunities today as well as the challenges. We can often get boxed in when we think about the rapid change of technology, markets, and policy, and those issues around us, but they're also presenting incredible opportunities for us to move the business forward. I invite all of you to join us in reimagining and redeploying this energy future. I know that we can all go farther and have a lot more fun doing it together. Thank you.
Thanks, Stefan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stefan. Very excited about our final keynote speaker this morning, Dr. J. Patrick Kennedy. Dr. Kennedy is the CEO and majority owner of OSI Soft. Under Dr. Kennedy's leadership, the company has grown from a small software startup in 1980 to a very successful global corporation. Before founding the company, Dr. Kennedy was a research engineer for Shell Development Company. He actually began his career at Shell as an advanced controls specialist. In 1973, he joined Taylor Instruments, where he served as an applications consultant and installed a range of control systems for refineries and chemical plants. His voice has been very influential in the development of new tools designed to make more sense of big data. He's won numerous awards for his work. He's a very compelling speaker and one of the greatest minds in this industry. Please put your hands together for Dr. J. Patrick Kennedy.
Thank you. Well, greetings. We got to 5 of 5. So after I get done, a little bit more, and you're going to get some lunch. But I wanted to shift the focus a little bit. I'm really impressed. Have you been impressed with the talks, the new power stations and the carbon capture? It's really amazing. We have some of the same issues. And that is, software, if anything, is changing more rapidly than these devices. It takes about 7 years to build up a software package. So that means we have to look and see what's going to be common 7 years from now. So what I wanted to do is collect a couple of issues that I know are going to be important, probably not for a few years, but they're going to hit us, and they're going to hit us hard. I've picked an example, distributed energy resources, because of where we are, but there are other examples as well, whether they be autonomous vehicles or many of the other IoT or the other sensors. So I want to go just very quickly through my definition of DER, which I'm sure is pretty close to yours. But then I want to talk a little bit about what I call community systems and what they are. And then I want to address these issues. So the first thing is, what is DER? DER is distributed energy resources, of course. But what that means is that we're now going to jump from these supply side, from these power stations, over to the other side of the meter. And the problems facing the users, the loads of power, are immense, and they're looking for solutions. One of those solutions, which they're being incented to look at, are these DERs. First of all, they think of solar generation on their roofs. This may not seem like a lot, but we just built a new building, and the area we set aside for solar can actually generate more than our peak load. There's also batteries and fuel cells. We've already poured a pad for a Bloom Energy fuel cell on a second building. But now we have to be able to manage these things. And this is a very, very data-intense operation. Why do we use the DER? Well, one of the reasons we use DER is, first of all, sometimes we're required to. There's mandates all over the country on how to use this technology to help. And I would say one of the things I've always remembered, a project manager on one of these projects told me once, invest in natural resources, your costs will always go up. Invest in technology, your costs will always go down. And the users are aware of this, so they're looking for the technology that will help them. They don't really want to move offshore. They don't really want to reduce their operation, but they do have to have reliable power in order to effect their manufacturing. So their main goal is lowering the cost of their power. And we hear a lot about the great advantages of these different devices, but at the end of the day, they want to lower their cost of power. And this is going to take some very sophisticated systems to do that. But the second thing they want to do is improve their reliability. We are becoming more and more dependent on power. And the computers and the IoT and all these technologies are doing nothing to reverse that. So I normally don't use slides because I read Edwin Tufte's paper on slides on PowerPoint and became a true believer. So I haven't really done slides for a few years. But I did want to show you this picture. This is like the other pictures you've seen, but I have some additional information on this one. This is the price of batteries, lithium-ion batteries. And if you look at where it's going from 1,000 down to 200 or so, this is a very dramatic drop. One of the things they teach us in engineering school is that the world tends to work on a smooth curve. So we have no reason to expect this curve won't continue to go down. But the information I have is that when we started our project of building our new buildings, I got a price. We need about 1,000 kilowatt hour battery. It was about $500,000. Earlier this year, I got another price. It was $240,000, same battery. And according to the very technical newspaper, when the Gigafactory comes up, it could drive the price of batteries down in the $100 range. Remember, what people want to do is they want to lower their cost of power. So every incremental drop in price of a solar cell, a battery, or any of these other devices will end up doubling and tripling the volume of these things. I punched the button. There we go. So this is one of our buildings. This is actually what you're looking at as far as the power load. What really gives you issues in this, you can see it heated up during the week, and that little tiny peak on Thursday set our demand costs for the whole month. But what you can also see is that it's not used much at all on the weekends, and there's steady ups and downs. So smoothing out this curve has a great benefit, and that is lowering the demand costs. But there's a second benefit in that if we have storage, we can shift those costs into the lower cost at night. Because we're on, this is the PG&E 810 TOU tariff. It's the time of use tariff that everyone in California was required to put in. But as you can see, the difference between off-peak and on-peak is considerable. And what the user wants to do is lower their cost of power. So let me look a little bit at what the software issues are going to be able to support you. And we're seeing this throughout the industry. I'm using DER because this is a term that's familiar and you know the issues with this. But one of the biggest issues we're facing is the fact that the systems that are going to be in use in a few years are going to be community systems. They may be in the cloud, they may not be in the cloud. That's really an expedient for the people developing and actually using these systems. But the key is the data are not owned by a single entity. You can already see this today in that nearly 10% of our load, California, comes from rooftop solar, but that's behind the meter. So that's not really useful or usable by some of the dispatch operators in order to manage the power balance. So the community will be your vendors, it will be different users on joint ventures, and sometimes the ownership may even change hour to hour as different producers bid onto the system. There's also going to be different buildings. The ownership of a building or buildings is not the same necessarily as the network of information gathering. The equipment is becoming so complex that more and more equipment is being managed by the vendors that supply it. And there's a big question then, who owns the data? When somebody brings data off of a turbine and uses it, who owns that data? And I would venture to say you will get a different answer based on who you ask that question. If you ask a company like Shell, they would have one answer. If you ask somebody that perhaps was a smaller user that was just trying to survive, you might get a different answer. Does the utility own? Up to the meter. And then the government, the environmental, have certain ownership rights too. So one of the real challenges for us is in these very, very large systems, we're going to have to figure out how to implement ownership rights for particular data as it's collected off of the equipment and out of the buildings. So another issue is scale. And whatever you think on scale, it's bigger than you're thinking. People talk about there being 1 trillion devices out there just waiting to come into the cloud and be useful in their calculation. Well, that's in addition to all the data that are already there, and that's in addition to all the new sensors that are going to be developed that we haven't thought about yet. So the scale of these things is immense. I think it's interesting to note that one of the first big data application actually used a relatively small AMI project because to them that was big data because there was so much of it. But now if you look at the grids, the interconnection of the grids, the power users, the power consumers, and the power producers, the scale of data is going to be immense. So we have to work, this is as a software company, we have to work to get more and more scale in these systems and not think about things like, oh, just a few million points is a big system. It's not. It will be tens and hundreds of millions of points that then have to be organized and classified and put to use. So that brings me down to analytics. Okay. That's the other problem of not using slides. You tend to forget what you put up there. But the other issue is the analytics. So when you look at how to use these data, we have to produce the analytics necessary for people to get useful information out of these data. Just having millions and millions of points streaming up to a system in the sky every few seconds doesn't really satisfy the need of lowering the cost of the power. So as we look at analytics, we look at multiple tiers. I would like to say the first tier is what I would call human analytics. You just bring information into people they've never seen before, and they look at it. They look at trends, they look at how to use the data, and they're able to respond in an intelligent fashion. And frankly, most people, experienced people, or natural intelligence, I guess you would call it, still responds better and more predictably than artificial intelligence. But then there are a few things where the data is too extreme or too fast for the human operator to respond to, particularly in the area of emergencies and emergency response. So for analytics, we have to build the tool set that allows these to be used on these very, very large data sets. It looks like these analytical methods are going to be actually available as services by the cloud providers. And we hope that's the case because the amount of work to build good analytics is immense. The other thing to look at is that the type of data coming in are going to be far different than we've ever experienced before. In the past, we had a piece of data and we could make judgments on it and then take our actions. Today, we're going to get entire curves. If you look at the waveforms coming off synchronous phasers, they're coming off very rapidly, and there's a lot of them, but they tell you a wealth of information. So what I'm saying is that as we work in the software business, and I realize we can't put big turbines on the stage, and we can't show you big equipment that's pounding away at 80 decibel levels or 100 decibel levels. But the intelligence that sits in these machines, the intelligence that sits in the grid, and the intelligence used by the people that have to live with this equipment are the things that are changing in the software world. So basically, that's what we are looking at. We're looking at how to get scale above the millions of points that we would do today. We look at how to get the scope of that data out to properly honor the ownership by those people that do have the ownership, which again may change in a contract-to-contract basis, and build the platform that has the analytics of the future. So I hope that you see that what we're trying to do is we're trying to support this thing that's not yet come. But before you think that this is far out, remember that if you go all through history, if you look at telephone, if you look at telegraph, you look at cars, you look at any piece of equipment out there, what becomes dominant actually sits in the market 30 years before that. It just hasn't been perfected. So that means that everything that we're going to have to support in our working future exists today. And so it's now just a matter of finding what we need to support and being supportive. I thank you very much for the time, and thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Great job. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. That was an outstanding talk. We're close to wrapping things up, but we want to end it on a very high note. Once again, here's Jennifer Runyon, the editor of Renewable Energy World, to announce this year's PowerGen Woman of the Year.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you. So, okay. So our very last award today is what I believe is a very special category. It's our PowerGen Woman of the Year Award. Now, people always want to know, why do we do a Woman of the Year Award? And the answer is, we hope that by recognizing high-achieving women in power generation, we will inspire young women to enter the energy industry. Because time and again, studies show that diversity in the workplace leads to higher revenues for companies. In May, just this year, Morgan Stanley released a report that directed investors to prioritize gender-diverse companies because companies with more women in management make more money. Our finalists for our Woman of the Year Award are great examples of high-achieving women in power generation. They are Azeb Asnaka, CEO of Ethiopian Electric Power, Pamela Rausch, VP External Affairs and Economic Development with Florida Power and Light, and Caroline Wynn, Chief Operating Officer, San Diego Gas and Electric. And the winner is Azeb. Congratulations. Thank you for your good work.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Are we good? This way.
Thank you once again. Thank you once again. A wonderful choice for our Power Gen Woman of the Year. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have just heard from 5 outstanding keynote speakers. They represent some of the biggest decision makers in our industry. I have learned a lot. I hope you have. I'll be spending 2 or 3 days analyzing all of the information that we received over the last 2 hours. I'd like to end our keynote session this morning on a sad but positive note. I've been doing this event for 7 years now, and for me, there is a major void at this year's event. Normally, Bob Biachini, our longtime CEO, would be sitting on the front row right there, watching my every move, listening to every word. Bob was CEO of Penwell for 15 years. Bob unexpectedly passed away last month. Bob was a very smart businessman. He was a talented lawyer. He was very demanding. He made everyone around him better. And this event, Power Gen International, was a major piece of his vision for the company. This picture of Bob, that says Bob. That's Bob probably delivering marching orders to his team of executives. His teachings, his business philosophies will be carried forward by the team of executives he has left behind, many of whom are sitting on the front row today. So I'll end this morning's keynote session the way I think Bob would end it. Merry Christmas. God bless. Thank you for being here. Have a great conference, everyone. Thank you.